I think it's very, very clear that you have one of the most highly effective vaccines against any virus, and you have a highly contagious disease, measles, that can have serious complications. So to me, it's really a slam dunk what the decision should be.
The Center for Disease Control now counts a rise of almost 20% in measles cases since the beginning of the calendar year alone. The once eradicated disease here in America is spreading, and it's now coast to coast. And what some Californians are now doing to counter any vaccination of their children will leave more than a few shaking their heads. It's a story that becomes more surreal with every day, so let's add some reality to the matter. And welcome to MidPoint, the past president of the National Foundation for Infectious Diseases and professor of Preventive Medicine and Infectious Diseases at Vanderbilt University. Dr. William Schaffner joins us. Dr. Schaffner, thanks for being here.
It's a pleasure, although the circumstances are uncomfortable.
It is uncomfortable, and I have to tell you, when I talk about shaking your head, here's the one we have to lead with now. Apparently in California, public health officials there are warning parents now, who want to hold what they're calling measles parties, where they will intentionally expose unvaccinated children to a person with measles. Doctor, I'm sorry, but I'm at a loss for words here at a moment, simply to think that anybody could, quite frankly, be that stupid.
Well, I'm sorry. I'm stunned. There are people who think the natural way is best. The natural way, back before we had vaccines for measles, killed 400 to 500 children in the United States each and every year. Measles and its complications did that. We can improve on nature. We don't let appendicitis run its course. We do surgery. We can improve on nature. And we can improve on nature in preventing this very serious disease among children. Exposing children to measles, oh my word.
And not only that, here's a Marin County mother. She said she was invited to expose her two kids to a child who had already contracted measles. Her kids are 6 and 8 years of age and are not vaccinated. Look, this is just getting absolutely ridiculous at this point. Doctor, how do we fight this? Because, look, there are some people who, quite frankly, are just not smart enough. They're about as dumb as a brick, and you're never going to get through to them. But there have to be some people here that we can say the CDC is not fighting against you. This is not a government conspiracy. We are not out here throwing measles out in order to get everybody sick for some reason. What do we do, doctor? I got to throw up my hands here.
Ed, let me call them misguided. You can be
That's quite all right. That's good. And you have to be politically correct, but in this case, I can afford not to be. Please go ahead.
So actually, we have daycare and school immunization laws, and my feeling is that all of us agree to go on the green and stop on the red. That's good for us, and we don't create havoc in our communities. It's quite the same with vaccines, and I think all the state laws, and they are state laws, not federal laws, need to be strengthened such that they do not provide for personal belief or, frankly, religious objections to vaccination. Mississippi, West Virginia do it that way. They have vaccination rates of 99%. I think the other states need to take note and change their laws and enforce them very rigorously. And I think with education, support, reassurance, good knowledge, but vaccinate.
But how do we then balance? I got about a minute before we take a break and come back. How do we balance those who do it on religious reasons because they will say the government does not own my child? I have the right to do this if I have a religious belief.
Other than Christian Science, I'm really not aware of a major organized religion that has a ban on vaccination.
Actually, doctor, I think you're right. There's only one that we were able to find thanks to a report in the Deseret News in Utah. The Congregation of Universal Wisdom is the only one they could find that explicitly bans immunizations.
Yeah, so we could discuss what to do about religious objections. If you're in the Army, that doesn't work. You've got to be vaccinated. I think if you live among us, you've simply got to be vaccinated.
We got to talk about some of the laws here because you mentioned briefly what's going on in Mississippi. I do want to talk to you about that, plus also a little bit about some of these border scares that are going on. Doctor, please stand by for a couple of moments. Folks, I told you you'd shake your heads at this one. All right, now those who claim the measles outbreak is a made-up government plot, the CDC can't be trusted, and it's all about illegals crossing the borders. We have heard this. It is true that there are some people coming into the country who perhaps are carrying a disease, but wait till you hear the numbers about where America ranks with the rest of the world in vaccinations. We'll wander into those fields and get some more truth right after the break here on MidPoint, where we question everything. Welcome back to MidPoint. Past president of the National Foundation for Infectious Diseases, Dr. William Schaffner, joins us. All right, Dr. Schaffner, I promised everybody a couple of stats here. These are the ones here. In basic vaccination, 9% of U.S. children are not immunized against the measles. That is a higher proportion than in Tajikistan, Zimbabwe, Bhutan, Libya, and 106 other countries. Doctor, quite frankly, how did we get to this point?
Well, we got to this point, obviously, because upper middle class moms who are very well educated and computer savvy and want to do things in the natural way, never experienced measles, aren't afraid of it, don't value the vaccines, go to the internet, find all kinds of malarkey on the internet, frankly, and therefore withhold their children from vaccination. You know, we eliminated measles throughout the entire Western Hemisphere, all of North and South America. We're the country in our hemisphere that has the lowest measles vaccination rate and the only country at present that has the ongoing transmission of measles. I've heard stuff on the internet. Oh, the illegals are bringing it. Malarkey. It's our well-to-do parents who are withholding children, taking them abroad on a vacation. They get sick abroad, bring it home, and spread it to their friends.
What is this then with middle class? And then, because you're right, and the studies always pointed out, it is the upper middle class, it's the wealthy who do this. Do they just want designer children? Do they want to be able to tell somebody, hey, look, my kid's just fine? Is it bragging rights? What is it that makes these people lacking in such standard intelligence?
Well, look at it this way. I'm mildly sympathetic to them. Number one, they don't know measles, don't fear it, worry about the vaccine, are concerned about multiple vaccines being given simultaneously, want to participate more in medical care, and begin doubting what it is their pediatrician, who's going to take care of their children day in and day out, says to them. It's a very curious phenomenon. Also, we're not taught about vaccines in middle school and high school, so we don't know very much about them when we become parents.
Wait a minute now, Doctor, you just said something here. Is it possible here in America that we're no longer trusting our doctors? Because I've often been one who talks about the level of care, and there are some doctors out there, quite frankly, in today's day and age, that don't seem to care about their patients anymore. There's people who basically shovel them in and out like they're nothing more than a factory line of patients here. Is that part of it here, where maybe people have said the doctors aren't as good anymore, so if I don't do something, then I'm going to get caught with a bad doctor?
I'm not a pediatrician, but I'm going to say the pediatricians I know are not like that. They really care about those children. They're really quite remarkable women and men. So it's not that so much. It's just that the moms are born to be skeptical, I think, of all authority. And part of what you mentioned before is there are some people who don't want anyone telling them what to do about anything.
There it is. It's that I can do it, I make the decisions better. Okay. Now, knowing that we could take on the soccer moms across America and we'd be in big trouble here, and again, we're not saying everybody here. Let's make that very clear. We're only talking about a very few, thank goodness. But let me get your opinion on this. There is in the Washington Post, an opinion column recently, and the title, Revoke the License of Doctors Who Oppose Vaccines. What do you think?
Yeah, that's by Art Kaplan. He
Yes.
makes a very provocative argument, and I don't think it's going to work, but it's given everybody a lot to think about, and I hope makes doctors very uncomfortable, those very few who are actually promoting stretching out the immunization program so that children remain susceptible for longer periods of time. And actually, there are a few out there, there are always a few, who are discouraging vaccination.
The funny
They
thing
need to
is,
be called to account.
a lot of the anti-vaxxers are ones who don't want government involvement, but isn't it true that what they're doing right now is basically going to create more government involvement with places like Mississippi, New York, Virginia, and others who are going to start passing laws to make sure that kids get vaccinated?
I think we all need to realize we vaccinate to protect our own children and to vaccinate and to protect others in the community. Vaccines have two functions. In order to have as disease-free a society as possible, we all need to participate.
Dr. William Schaffner, it's always a pleasure to have you on the show. I hope that the next time we gather, we do not have to start on a subject which will have you slapping your head, because we do not want to force you to have a concussion based on what some people are doing. But trust me, we'll continue to see if we can bring some common sense to all this. Doctor, thank you so much for your time again.
Thanks, Ed.
All right, my pleasure. Let's just make this point to people who are watching too, and this is fact. Consider that in 1990, before widespread immunization, measles was rampant around the world. It caused an estimated 2.6 million deaths globally every year. This is measles, who many people doesn't think it's that big a deal. Today, it is still a leading cause of death among children. 145,000 children died in 2013 because of the measles. From stopping the spread of measles to stopping the spread of bad publicity for one man who was once one of the more trusted individuals in America. That's coming up next, right here on MidPoint.